Start by welcoming you all to the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center's Something to Talk About program. We meet several times a week and talk about a whole variety of topics. Today, we're going to be talking about plug-in hybrids and EVs. And I want to thank you all for participating. And I'm looking forward to many of you sharing your experience, which will help us, especially people like me who have not yet made the plunge, think about what we want to do. So our sponsor for these programs is Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island. Fieldstone offers memory care, assisted living, and independent living on Rolling Bay. They have day stay and respite programs. And to schedule a tour or learn more, call 360-594-1010. I'd also like to acknowledge, as we do every time, that we are gathering on the ancestral homeland of the Suquamish people who have lived on the Salish Sea since time immemorial. We honor them and are grateful for the hospitality of the people of the clear salt water. Today's topic, as I said, EVs and plugins. And I know there are a couple people in our conference room, and when you want to talk, all you have to do is push the little button there and you will have speaker. Otherwise, you're off the speaker. And I know that a couple people there and Andrew Lovejoy, who's also on, have experience with electric vehicles. I'm curious if one of you who has made the jump to a plug-in hybrid or a fully electric vehicle would be willing to talk a little bit about what helped you make that decision. Barbara, why don't you unmute yourself and start us off? Thank you for taking the plunge of being the first person.
Well, I'm delighted to talk about it. So I bought in January of this year a used Prius plug-in. And I was prompted to do that by the fact that last year's COP session did nothing to limit fossil fuels. And I thought, okay, I can't stand this. I'm going to reduce my fossil fuel consumption as much as I can. And I live alone, so I didn't want to buy a used electric car because I was worried about limited range. I had range anxiety. So I ended up buying a Prius plug-in with about 50,000 miles on it. And it just plugs into a 110-volt outlet in my garage. Takes a couple hours to charge up, and I only get like 13 miles or so on that, 12 to 13 miles on a plug, but it's so great for just around town. So I have been super happy with everything about my new car, except of course car payments.
So was it relative to your other choices, it was a little more expensive if you'd gone with a fossil fuel based vehicle of comparable quality?
I didn't even think about another fossil-based fuel vehicle because I had one that I really liked, but it was a Honda Fit, and it was paid for and great to drive, but it only got 27 miles to the gallon, and that just wasn't good enough.
Andrew, what's your experience? If you could unmute and share that with us, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So my partner and I have a 2013 Prius, which is not a plug-in, just a regular hybrid, and then we have a 2015 Nissan Leaf, and both of those have been great for us. Let's see. So we were living for a long time in Indianola and commuting back and forth to Bainbridge, and now we've moved primarily to Port Townsend. So even in Indianola, going back and forth to Bainbridge, I drove that Leaf a lot and was really happy with it. It gets like 80 to 100 miles on a charge, which depends pretty heavily from the season too. One thing that I think we didn't really know that is good to know is that the heater really draws a lot of battery. I don't know if that's any different on the more on the newer ones, but so the range is significantly better like in the summertime and significantly shorter in the winter, unless you want to just like.
Unless you want to be like I am in my '83 VW, wearing a coat and warm pants.
Exactly. Yeah. So like in the summer, I could go back and forth from Indianola to Bainbridge twice. Occasionally, I had to do that, and it was no big deal. In the winter, if I had to do that, I really kind of had to baby the battery and think about it and dress warm and stuff like that. But if like you live on Bainbridge and just are driving on Bainbridge, you would never have to think about it. You just plug it in when you get home. Now we mostly just drive that Leaf around Port Townsend, and yeah, we just plug it in, and it's awesome. Um,
Do you
and
have to make any arrangements around the plug-in? Like figure out, like, do you have to carry an extension cord with you if you're going to make those 2 trips?
it would depend a little bit. So sometimes I would, pack the cord and plug it in, like at my mom's house where I am here now on Bainbridge. You can, I will say the most stressful times have been times when I just thought, oh yeah, I'll plug it in at like Town and Country for a couple hours. And then you get there and there's 2 other cars plugged in and you don't know when they're going to leave. And if you're actually on like a time schedule, then you don't want to do that. So, yeah, you just kind of have to plan ahead sometimes if you're doing that kind of thing, and know where you're going to plug in and maybe bring your plug with you. But again, if you're just on Bainbridge or back and forth between Bainbridge and Paulsbo or something like that, um, probably never have to think about that. And really, there are lots of charging stations, a lot more than there used to be, I think. So it's generally not too hard to find one when you need one.
You're using 110 to charge.
Yep. Yeah, we just can plug it straight into, the exterior outlet on our house, and it charges at home about 10% per hour. So even if the battery is really low when we get home in the evening or whatever, plug it in and we're full by morning. And then like plugging into the stations like at Town and Country or the one in front of Blackbird in Winslow, I want to say we get up to like 30% in an hour on those. So you can actually get full pretty quickly if you need to on those higher power charging stations.
Mary, could you push the little button and share with us what your experience has been? Yeah, there.
Yep. This year we bought a Kia Niro, and it's a plug-in hybrid electric. And it's been interesting. Had to learn a lot of stuff.
What kinds of things were a surprise for you? Maybe planning how to charge or what?
No, the charging part was easy because it's a 110. We have what they call a trickle charge. We can change it to later to, I don't know what it is, but to a higher charge, so it'll charge quicker. But we plug it in the evening, and then usually by the morning, then it's full. But usually I'm just taking it around Bainbridge Island, so I could probably go like the whole week or more without, it's only if we do a Silverdale trip. Then on the way back, we're getting low and we might have to it'll switch smoothly over to the gas. It has a lot of buttons, and we used it to go to Colorado and back. And my husband was driving though, but he liked it, and he liked the fact that you could program it to follow the car in front of you, by 1 car length or 2 or 3 car lengths, and then it would automatically brake. But that was kind of scary because is this thing going to really brake or what? And then my grandson was driving it, and he said, gosh, I got a cramp in my foot because I didn't know if it was going to brake or not, and he's only 21. So he was just like, oh my gosh. But it was kind of nice. And then it has the dings on the side that they tell you, somebody, for your blind spots, it'll tell you somebody's coming, which is nice. And it keeps the car in the middle of the road.
Oh, that's good. And Becky, you joined us. You also went electric.
I do.
You went all electric.
I have a Volkswagen Golf, all electric. And I live in a condominium, and I have a carport that has a storage shed that has a household current. And I plug the car into that. The downside, of course, is Volkswagen and any other smaller car like that, the maximum mileage is 100 miles. However, for me, it's great. I can drive to Bremerton easily and back. I can't go to Tacoma. My son was sure that he could, and so he did it and ran out of power right in front of the Alaska terminal. So, and I did not say, I told you so. I love my car. I will never, I'm sure, never go back. The condominium association charges me $20 a month to charge it, which is nothing. And I've found, you know, places, I'm a volunteer at BEMA, and so when I'm there, I can plug into their charge, which is faster, and get a little bit more. But I think it's absolutely fabulous. The downside is that traveling, for example, with a Tesla, you could travel and program it to take you to a fast charge station. I could go to California easily and program for a fast charge Tesla station. But with my car, I can't do that. So, and I only know, my daughter has a Tesla and I think it's fabulous. I just recently drove it for a week and I thought it was fabulous, but the price is more than I wanted to do for a car. But I think the smaller ones, Leaf has more than 100 miles to the charge. But for me, living on Bainbridge is perfect.
Looks like, as we've heard from a couple people, there are used vehicles available. Andrew, unmute, and we're happy to hear from you again.
Yeah, I forgot to mention one thing that I thought was worth sharing, which is a potential downside of these is they are a little harder to get work done. I know most regular shops won't touch the Leaf at all. We have to take that to the dealer where we got it in Bremerton for regular maintenance and stuff. And then for our Prius, which isn't a plug-in, but I imagine it's similar for plug-ins, shops will work on some stuff, but they don't want to touch anything that's related to the hybrid battery. So for that, we'll have to go, like there's something going on with ours now, and we're going to have to take it to a dealer. So if you're used to being able to get everything done, you know, at the shop on the island or something, that may not be the case with those either electric or hybrid cars.
Is that Giselle there? Did you have anything to add?
Me? Yeah, I do. Along those lines that Andrew was just mentioning, I bought my car used at, oh my gosh, it just escaped me. The fabulous used car shop in Poulsbo. Liberty Bay. And I've had it, I think, 3, maybe 4 years. Anyway, they take it all the time and they do a really good job with it. What I don't know, and maybe the Puget Sound friend knows, I don't know the life of the battery. I only have 25,000 miles on the car, so I'm sure the battery is doing okay, but it would be good to know ahead. And I'm sure my book, which makes me crazy every time I want to look up something, will tell me the life of the battery. But anyway, that's all.
Yeah, so we have a couple people here from Puget Sound Energy. They have a emphasis and support of electric vehicles. We have Adam Crawford and Maria Dozman. Thank you so much, both for dropping in at not a lot of notice.
Thank you.
But I think that this is a topic which is increasingly of interest. People who are making choices about their next car are thinking, I should definitely consider this. I did see in some of the posts that I was putting up in advance that there are concerns about heavy metal use, the metals and mining for putting together the batteries. It's an ongoing sort of challenge of our times that there's nothing that it comes without some sort of cost. And I am hoping that we have, maybe this is hope against hope, responsible rules around mining. But Maria or Adam, would you like to start us off and tell us a little bit about what PSE is doing on, to support EV? I'm thinking, one of the things you tell us a lot about is how to reduce our energy use. Buying an electric car is actually a new way that we use your product.
Thank you, Reed. If you don't mind, I'd like to start by introducing myself, and I'll have Adam introduce himself as well. I'm an outreach manager for Puget Sound Energy, and what that means is I am Kitsap based. I actually live on Bainbridge Island, and part of my job is connecting our customers to programs such as these EV programs, and then bringing feedback to our program teams who are working on making sure that we are helping our customers to the maximum effect, and finding out what else we can do for our customers in this space. So this is fantastic to be here. Even if it was last minute, we really appreciate it. And then Adam, I'll let you introduce yourself too.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm the outreach manager over in Kittitas County, so I'm over here east of the mountains. My wife and I actually just purchased, well, I can't say just, we purchased a used Nissan Leaf back in 2020. So we have a little bit of experience with electric vehicle charging, some general maintenance, and then charging in public and at home. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I also work closely with the electric vehicle team. And so we're always looking at different programs, looking at what infrastructure upgrades are going to need to happen. And then we also have a team that's dedicated to like marketing for that program. And so we have a PSE website that just showcases the different EV programs. And if you're ever interested in comparing different electric vehicles, we have an EV guide that shows you cost, what incentives are available both on a federal and state level, and then comparison with mileage and different things like that. And so you can actually see it up here on the screen.
And I should say also, we are a 2 EV family. We recently moved back to Bainbridge Island after being away for a while, and actually out of the country, and we bought a used Leaf for our teenager, and so excited at the price, not realizing the limit to the battery because it was so old. But it ended up being a pro in our case because she is truly limited to the island for most of her driving. And as a new driver, we were very happy with that. We did install a level 2 charger, and we are really happy with the Leaf as well. And my husband bought a Tesla, his first brand new car ever. He really likes it. I will say, for me, I love the Nissan Leaf more. I tell him I feel like I'm almost driving a laptop when I'm in his car. I don't love it as much, but I did go to the EV event that Sustainable Bainbridge hosted and PSE sponsored. When it comes around in next spring, if you're on the edge and still trying to decide, that was a fantastic event. I don't know if anybody here went, but it was so great to talk to other EV owners and ask all sorts of questions. And I definitely, just because I don't like a Tesla, I definitely was like, oh, I love this car. Or it was just great to talk to owners. I just love that whole concept of these owners sharing their experience, just like you're doing here.
I think that Teslas might be the automotive equivalent of Apples, where
Yes.
you get people who are like, this is it, and I am so happy with this. And then you have people who are more like the PC, or I'd like to have an Android or something like that. One of our members, Bob Shulock, wrote me. He wasn't able to come today, but he wanted to say that he had a hybrid for 18 years, and it had no maintenance problems. He didn't tell me what the brand was. And then he bought a Tesla Model 3 and has had it for 5.5 years, and he thinks it's been just really super. I guess the hybrid must have been a Prius because he said that vehicle was the second best car he's ever had. So when you talk about support at PSE for electric and plug-in hybrids, are there any incentives or support with helping people with electrical hookups, trying to figure out how to do that? Tell me the kind of things that people might encounter. I know that a lot of people are just doing pretty well with the 110 trickle charging method for most of their use. Do people try to upgrade to a different kind of plug-in at home?
I know that we did, and I know that one of the things that we're doing at PSC from an outreach perspective is talking to different multifamily units, right? So we get a lot of calls and queries from, condo owners who or condo associations who are interested in level 2 charging because their residents are moving over to EVs. So I know that we do provide some advisory services, and Adam can speak to this a little bit as well, for those folks to help them understand, right, Adam, what their incentives are, not only through PSC,
Yep.
but also through federal and state level incentives.
Yeah, so a couple of our programs, we work with multifamily units to try and help them with the install. And so we're trying to make sure that all of our customers have access to charging. So if they want to make that switch, how do we work with multifamily residential properties to make sure that, there might not be a garage available or a 110 plug-in available. And so if we can help these properties install a charger, in turn would help customers maybe look at an EV as their next purchase. We also have had a couple of programs where we wanted to study what the usage on our grid was going to be when people are getting home from work, they're plugging in their cars. What is that going to look like? And so we had a pilot project a couple of years ago where we helped install 500 different chargers into customers' home, just so we could look at that data over the next 10 years to kind of get an idea for what it's going to look like on a larger scale. And then one of the last things that we have right now is workplace charging. And so how do we work with different businesses or different organizations to help with the installation of a charger so their customers and the employees at that organization can use a charger well at work. I know my wife actually works for Puget Sound Energy. She's out at our Wild Horse Wind facility, and they have a electric vehicle plug in at that facility. And so when she drives to work, she can just plug in and get a charge while she's at work. So we're looking at all these different programs in order to figure out what's going to work best and how do they all tie together.
And there's a commitment from PSE to sort of figure out how to integrate electric vehicles into your future plans. I know that, on the island, there's been a lot of concern about available power and trying to make sure that we don't force ourselves into use of another or creation of more electric capacity through construction. But when you look at things like this, there are challenges to that, are there not?
Yeah, I think so I've worked at PSE for the last 15 years, off and on, started as an intern. And there's about 1 million different things happening all at once with utilities. We're looking at bringing on new renewable energy, and we're looking at battery storage, and we're looking at making the switch from gasoline engines to electric vehicles. And so and then the infrastructure, right? How are we going to make sure that we have all this infrastructure in place to keep the lights on and keep rates at, an affordable cost? And so those are all the things that are happening in the background for Maria and I and everybody else at PSE. And so we're still in the midst of figuring out what that's going to look like in 2 years from now. and also 10 years from now.
And we do have a newsletter where you can sign up if you want. We share upcoming incentives related to specifically to electric vehicles, tips and tricks, all sorts of information along the lines of what Adam was sharing related to all of this stuff, load management. If you really want to stay close to that, you could always check our website to just follow the newsletter to see what the latest newsletter says there, or you can just sign up for it at psc.com/electric cars. Read, I can send that to you.
I also found it by going to ev.psc.com. But yeah, PSC either way. And it sounds like most of the people who we have talked to today feel like they would not go back. That either a combination of a plug-in, which is, I liked what Barbara called range anxiety. And I think that until we don't have plug-in support across the country the way we have gas stations now, but I'm anticipating, I know that that there are a lot of initiatives to try to improve the situation for people driving electric vehicles all the way across the country. I don't know whether that's been a problem in Eastern Washington, Adam. Maybe not.
Not that I've seen, not lately.
Yeah. Are there any other comments or questions for Maria or Adam? Linda Hill, you have a question? Just unmute, please. And
sorry, I don't have a question for them.
would you have a comment or question anyway? I saw you wave. Or you just saying?
I wanted to give my experience. I just recently purchased a Toyota RAV4 Prime. So that's the plug-in RAV4, because I'm limited in my condominium to one parking spot. And I can do all electric driving on the island, but I still want to be able to take a larger vehicle camping and on road trips. So this was the perfect combination for me. And I just got it in July, and I'm loving the electric driving around on the island. And I made a trip to Portland to go cat sit for my sister, and who has no charging capability where she is. And it was really just fine. It was great to switch to the hybrid when I needed it. I did go ahead and pay to have a level 2 charger installed in my parking space. I'm at Harbor Square, and it was much more expensive than a normal residential installation would be, because they're having us install meters in our parking spots, but there is no program in place right now to have the meter read. So our HOA is charging us $35 a month, which I don't think that's how much I'm using. So I'm keeping track of my monthly kilowatt hours in hopes that by the end of the year, I'll have some stats that I can give the board to maybe make an exception for my car. But
maybe we can have Becky come and speak at your homeowners association meeting. Becky, if you want to talk, you need to push the little button in front of you.
No? Oh, so I just wanted to say, Linda, I pay $20 a month, and they arrived at that decision through the HOA management company in, I think they're in Silverdale. And they claim that that's about an average charge that homeowners associations are doing. So you might mention that to Harbor Square, that 35 is pretty high. Anyway, and while I have the floor, I just want to say this real quick, is that the secret to the history of or the future of being able to charge cross country is what Tesla has done, because you can get a 250, 300 mile charge in 15 minutes. So that kind of charging station needs to be established throughout the country. And I must say, for all the controversy about Elon Musk, he really set the bar very high, very high. And I think that's to our benefit. That's why we're seeing more and more cars becoming. So I'm still an Elon Musk fan, but he does need to clean up his act a little bit.
Well, I would advise you not to get in a relationship with him. Barbara, did you have a comment?
I had a question, and it was exactly about the HOA and how do they calculate. So I'm wondering if either Maria or Adam has any information about like the hourly cost of a trickle charge. And if a hybrid plug-in, because if I only get 13 miles to a charge, what would be a fair rate for me to pay? Because I live in a small HOA. And we haven't discussed this yet. I occasionally get a stink eye from one of my neighbors, like, oh, she's plugging in again. So I'd like a way to pay a fair amount, but I don't know how to calculate that.
That is a great question that I do not have the answer to.
Okay.
I think one of the things you can look at is just the cost per kilowatt hour of electricity through PSE and how much electricity you're actually using for a full charge.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be able to help you at least get an idea for what that is actually costing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, because I know for us, when we charge at home on 110, I mean, for a full charge, and we have a 2017 Nissan Leaf, and it gets about 100 miles on a charge on a great day. It does not cost us very much money, a couple of dollars for that charge, versus if we're at a level 2 and we're charging in public, it's a lot more expensive to do that. And so for us, just out of pure convenience, we're always charging at home with 110, just a level 1 charger, and that's really saved us a lot of money.
So Linda has a comment or question, but I would like to just interject in between here. Those level 2 chargers, again, I don't have an electric vehicle or a plug-in. I haven't used it. So how do those payments work? Do you give a credit card to them, or do you need to sign up, or what?
Are you talking about in like public charging versus
Yes.
level 2 at your house?
Public.
Yeah. So from my experience, I wish it was more simplified than it is. It's not like you go to a gas station, you put in your credit card and you pump. For us, it's been, you have to download an app at the different public charging stations. And so the one that we use most often is in Sela or in Cleellum. And sometimes they're the same manufacturer, the same owner of those chargers. Sometimes they're different. And it has kind of been a pain to download the app and then get signed in and then get money put on that card. And so ideally, it'd be a lot easier to do, just like pumping gas versus doing all of this stuff in order to publicly charge with the level 2. And that's just my personal experience.
What we're working off today. Thank you. Linda.
Yeah, just as a point of reference, I keep track of the kilowatt hours. So for my car to get a full charge, which generally takes about 4.5 hours to give me 40 to 50 miles, is 13 kilowatt hours. I don't know how much that translates to monetarily, but just for.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again, Linda?
Yeah, so
you said full charge 4.5 hours gives you how much?
It gives me 40 to 50 miles. It says it's giving me 52, but the car is really only rated 42.
Okay.
So, and that's 13 kilowatt hours.
And that's you using a level 2 charger there.
Yes, that's a Grizzly charger, yeah. And at 30 amps max. Okay.
Thank you.
Giselle, you need to unmute, please.
Sorry, it's first time ever talking like this. So, wow, thank you so much. I've been wanting to get an electric vehicle for some time, but holding myself hostage to using the one I have until it falls apart, which is happening. So, outside of a Tesla, which I understand is the gold standard, what would, and the ones below that, which is the better one to try? And could I just get an all-electric one, or does that really, is there not one out yet that goes far enough? I'm sorry, there's so much research and I don't have a good memory anymore. So it's hard to keep track of all the different things. So I'd love an opinion.
Did see that on the PSE site, there are a number of different vehicles that have information about the manufacturer's suggested retail price, probably about the expected mileage. So the other challenge with this is that unlike, say, a fossil fuel vehicle, there's a lot of variety in the cars. And so it's going to make a big difference whether you're going to mostly be traveling short distances, if you occasionally drive across the state. And if this is your first vehicle and you have what Barbara again called range anxiety, you might really look at a plug-in hybrid as a good compromise where you would be able to, especially for most of your driving, use electricity. But if you get a little further afield, you don't have to worry about juggling the phone apps that Adam was talking about to get yourself a public recharge. It's a transitionary period. It's like some of us are still with the horse and buggies, and some of us are with those fancy horseless carriages.
Thank you. I'm wondering, because I've always been sensitive to electric magnetic fields. What do they call them? EMFs. And I know that, oh shucks, what's it called? The lithium batteries are not so great to be around. And I didn't know if the hybrid had a stronger lithium battery or whatever. And also, I'm really welcome. I can look at these things online, but it's so nice to have a person actually recommend, who probably has maybe gone through this research and say, well, this is what I came up with.
So two thoughts. One, what Maria said, which is that there was a EV fair that was recently held up at Woodward, and that would be a great place if you're patient, if your car will hold together for another 8 months. Or the other thing that I would suggest as a possibility is asking a question on if you're a member on our private Facebook membership group, and see if there's anybody there who might be able to offer you their experience. Maria or Adam, do you have anything to add to that?
I will say one other thing we share through our newsletter is events coming up. So you could also keep up, there might be other events happening in different parts of the Western Washington area. And I will say the comparison guide on our website is really great, because you can plug in what your interests are and your budget, and it'll pop back the different options with photos and things.
Great, thank you.
Right there it is, right there. I was just looking at it really quickly just to see, because I looked at this before and I thought it was really, because I agree with you. When I went to that event, it's a lot. There are a lot of different options there, and ranges and different levels and pricing. But coming to this tool, it was great. It's, click on the Find Your EV button and you can see what kind of fuel you want, what kind of car you're interested in, and it'll just...
It also helps out with incentives. And so as you get into looking at an electric vehicle or plug-in, there's different incentives that are available, both state and federal. And that gets into the details of where's the vehicle manufactured, where's the battery coming from, all of those. And so you can also base your purchase off of, do I want to get a vehicle that has a full incentive, so like $7,500 off or a tax break, and you can do it by that as well.
Thank you.
That's the Bolt EUV after incentives under 22,000.
I want to thank everybody for participating. This has been a very interesting conversation. And Maria and Adam, you added a lot of detail that we wouldn't have had. So we're grateful for you showing up.